Good afternoon. We're going to call our special meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, we will have our clerk read the roll.
Bolden.
Aye.
Boyes.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Fusco. Garrett.
Aye.
Hannah.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
Mr. McKittrick is joining the meeting now, so if I can come back to him in the roll call, if that would be okay. Okay. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we begin, we would like to take a moment just to thank all those who participated in our public hearings so far. Whether you had the opportunity to attend virtually on Monday or you emailed in your comments, we do want you to know that we appreciate the time that you've taken to share your opinion with all of us. Council held public hearings on Monday virtually due to the inclement weather. This additional meeting is being held as a courtesy to you. We want to give an opportunity for individuals to give remarks in person. We will begin with those who have not already shared their comments at our Monday's meeting, okay? So at this time, we're going to have our clerk read in item number 1.
Item number 1 is a resolution adopting the 2026 Capital Investment and Community Development Program, legally referred to as the Capital Investment Budget, and declaring an emergency.
Helen Tomic.
Good afternoon, Madam President, council members. The proposed capital investment program is the result of months of work across departments to determine how the city can best invest in its capital assets in order to improve its operational efficiency, to strengthen the quality of life of our residents, and to make Akron more attractive for private investment and ensure that the city's infrastructure aligns with strategic goals and plans. The city's capacity for investing in these assets is limited, and there is not enough resources or debt capacity to address all of our capital needs. The budget reflects our efforts to make often challenging decisions about what investments to prioritize and what investments can be delayed or forgone. The proposed 2026 capital budget continues the critical work of aligning the city's infrastructure with the needs of the 21st century city. The items in the budget will position Akron for continued growth and allow the city to better serve its residents. The Planning Department conducted an in-depth review of the capital budget on January 5th and on Monday, January 12th. The capital budget specifies the types, locations, costs, and general descriptions of the capital investments planned for implementation throughout the 2026 year. These investments include street and sidewalk improvements, improvements to park, economic development projects, improvements to public facilities, debt capacity, and water and sewer lines. The objectives of the capital budget are to construct or rehabilitate facilities vital to the residents of Akron, reducing long-term operating costs, encouraging private investment, thereby increasing the city's tax base and annual revenue, leveraging federal, state, and private funds wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to testify regarding our capital budget? If so, I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time. Anyone wanting to give testimony regarding the capital budget? Okay, thank you. Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
We'll pull a committee to refer this item. Kamer.
Aye.
Here.
Aye.
Boyes.
Aye.
Hannah.
Aye.
Request the committees to refer this item.
Thank you so much. This item will be referred.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a dual-use marijuana dispensary at 1140 West Portage Trail and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. OPC Cultivation LLC is seeking permission to establish a dual-use marijuana dispensary at this location. Ordinance number 275-2024 requires any medical, dual-use, or adult-use marijuana dispensing to receive conditional use approval. Additionally, the project must be reviewed and approved by the State Division of Cannabis Control. Petitioner intends to repurpose the existing long vacant CVS building into a state-licensed dual-use marijuana dispensary with retail tenants. The vacant CVS building will contain 3,000 square feet for marijuana dispensary sales, while the remaining roughly 7,700 square feet will be devoted to future retail tenants. The petitioner states the proposed dispensary will be equipped with state-of-the-art camera and alarm systems, providing 24/7 security monitoring of the building's interior and exterior. The proposed development affords the opportunity to repurpose a long vacant retail box store with a secure and vibrant retail presence in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. And while the siting of the existing building and parking on the parcel is non-conforming to MX3 district requirements, the petitioner has added significant elements that do conform, including the addition of designated bicycle parking areas, a transparent glazing system for north-facing storefronts, ample landscaping, pedestrian access, and unobtrusive signage. The proposed dispensary and retail use is in a heavily traveled mixed-use district and would be compatible with the surrounding uses and consistent with the property's former use as a CVS pharmacy. And the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. All those wishing to testify on item number 2, we're going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk. All those wishing to testify.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do."
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to begin. Again, we are asking for individuals who have not yet had an opportunity to testify. If you'll please approach the podium. I'm going to ask that you please provide us with your name and your address for the record. And I don't know who the lucky person is who'd like to be first.
Hi, my name is Pat Richwine. My address is 1401 Waters Edge Drive. My comments have nothing to do with the pro or con of marijuana. And I have no doubt at all that the dispensary is planning a state-of-the-art security for their building and themselves. That is not a problem. The problem with me is the security of everything else and everyone else around. I'm concerned about children and families' security. I'm concerned about resident security. Some of us are older than others and fragile. I'm concerned about security for businesses and for homes, for property values, for vandalism, etc. I'm concerned about security for traffic. High volume is already in that area. And for the environment, too. And all of those things I'm concerned about for the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is really a blessing for us. And although I have not lived in Akron for as long as the park has been there, I am concerned for the people who started the park and spent years and years and efforts to make that wonderful place. And therefore, I am against having the dispensary in our neighborhood.
Thank you. And please approach the next speaker. Yep.
Hi, my name's Maureen Ressler. I'm with Cushman Wakefield Commercial Real Estate. We are a global firm, and we're fortunate enough to have a presence right here in Northeast Ohio. And we specialize in all disciplines, including retail. So this project is about keeping a highly visible corner active, maintained, and contributing to the community. The proposed use allows the city to avoid prolonged vacancy and prevent blight. And I can tell you, as a commercial real estate agent, vacant properties quickly turn into blighted properties. I can't begin to tell you how many that I've gone into that I'm scared when I open the door to see what's behind there because it attracts vagrants and it attracts criminals. Supporting responsible development that benefits both established operators and future local businesses. The proposed use will bring immediate investment into the property, activate the site, and significantly reduce the risk of long-term vacancy. In addition, converting the building to a multi-tenant layout will increase flexibility, encourage small business participation, and support ongoing occupancy rather than reliance on a single larger retailer. And to put that into just a quick perspective for you, the CVS building is 11,000 square feet. Here in Northeast Ohio, we're a tertiary market. We do not have that many users that can go into a single tenant, 10,000 plus square foot building. Typically, we see those in power center areas, and even at that, the data will show very slim users. Across the country, former retail pharmacy buildings have become increasingly difficult to reuse and repurpose. The pharmacy industry was significantly overbuilt, and experts expect thousands of more stores on top of the vacancies and dark stores that we've already seen and closures in the upcoming several years. As a result, these buildings often sit vacant for years, and in some cases decades, before a viable reuse emerges. Without reinvestment, vacant buildings can quickly attract unwanted activity and negatively impact surrounding properties. At prominent intersections, vacancy also creates a poor first impression and becomes an eyesore for the community. And I can tell you that when I'm touring, if it be a corporate national user or it could be a small business owner, if you are touring someone in your market and you're touring an adjacent neighboring property, one of the first questions we get when they see a vacant corner, prominent corner, is what's going on with that building? They don't care about the 1,000 square feet that's vacant in an office building or 1,000 square feet vacant in a retail center. But prominent corners are eyesores. This is what's important: an established, well-capitalized ownership group that will serve as an anchor tenant. Their presence is critical to kickstarting the redevelopment and creating momentum that will allow additional local mom and pop businesses to successfully join the project.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Don't be shy.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Gross, and I live at 1489 Waters Edge Drive, Akron, Ohio, 44313. We border the CVS property. Those of us who are citizens of the city of Akron all have something in common today. We are here to be renewed and invigorated to love and to care for our city and its people, and to do what is best and right for each other. We're not against marijuana or marijuana sales or dispensaries. We are for dispensaries to be located in non-residential areas. The CVS property directly touches and borders our housing development. We are not renters, we are homeowners. We love, enjoy, and value where we live. We're bordered by the Cuyahoga River, and we see bald eagles and blue herons. It's beautiful, quiet, and peaceful, and we always thought it would be that way. This proposed property borders our private roads, which are the only roads for us to access or leave our homes. There are no other outlets for us. The way this property borders us is also enables any dispensary customers to access our roads and homes on their way in and out of the dispensary. Right now, we have unsafe traffic conditions, making it very difficult for us to safely get in and out of our development and onto West Portage Trail, Merriman Road, and Akron Peninsula Road. Yes, the CVS property is currently zoned as retail, which was probably very appropriate zoning for that area at that time. The problem is that the situation has changed drastically since then. We have lived here for the past 6 years and the traffic has tripled. The old golf courses have become housing developments and have increased the population of our area dramatically. Also, our intersection is the only way for drivers to travel between Cuyahoga Falls, Fairlawn, and West Akron areas. There are thousands of drivers who travel that route back and forth each day. Our thoughts are that possibly this land parcel can be rezoned for a better use that is more appropriate to today's traffic load. It is better suited to be a business-owned property that is suited to a wider range of businesses such as office work, product storage, medical care, supply chain, HR, finance, administration, and other such possibilities. These types of businesses would be much more appropriate for a residential area. They would invite much less traffic. They wouldn't be open as late at night as retail stores are, and this could solve many problems for this area. Putting in a dispensary hasn't been a problem for the other dispensaries that have gone into Akron. I wonder if it's because they have chosen non-residential areas. I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem for Firelands Dispensary to find and purchase a non-residential location. This choice could solve many problems for them, the city, and for us residents. We were only made aware of this dispensary 1 week before the Planning Committee meeting in December, and we only had a few days' notice, but still many of us showed up to the Planning Committee to express our concerns and needs. With so little time to prepare, I'm not sure that they understood our situation. But the vote was still 2 against the dispensary and only 3 for it. It certainly wasn't a unanimous by any means. Please ask yourself, would you want a marijuana dispensary bordering your houses and in your neighborhood? Would you want them driving your roads, which are the only way for you to enter and exit your home? I asked this question of the owner of the Firelands Dispensary, and he said it would be illegal to be in the residential area where he lives. That seems to be like the definition of hypocritical. He's not allowing it where he lives, but it's okay for where we live. Also, in closing, please ask yourself these questions. This sale might be legal, but is it ethical? Is it fair? Is it the right thing to do? Is it moving too fast on a property that possibly should be rezoned? This is a big day for us. It's a scary day for us. We are trying not to be worried, anxious, or fearful, but our future safety and happiness for where we live is being threatened. Our future is in the hands of 13 people we don't know. We don't know what you're thinking. We don't know how you feel about our situation. We don't know if you've ever had a proposal that would affect where you live, but we do know is that you are residents of the same city as we are, and we trust that you will care for us as you would care for yourself. We hope and pray that what we have come here to say today has inspired you to understand our situation. We humbly and earnestly ask for your no votes, and we greatly appreciate your taking your time today, your valuable time to hear us and for the consideration that you are giving us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Dave Cogdill. I live at I own the property at 1167 West Portage Trail, which is directly across from the proposed dispensary. The property's been in my family since 1953. Seen a lot of changes over the years, from 10 cars going down that road to the current 17,000. There's been some positive changes. The traffic has not been one of those. Very difficult to get in and out of my property, let alone trying to make left-hand turns into this old CVS. Went to a lot of meetings pertaining to the master plan for the valley that both Cogga Falls and Akron held for their citizens. Not once in the meetings that I went to was a dispensary ever mentioned. It was all going to be housing, retail, parking in the rear, landscaping in the front so everything would be hidden. Totally different than what's going to happen there. there's a lot of viable options for that facility, especially as a gateway to the valley. There's a lot of recreational things going on down there. They could combine a biking, hiking, retail, canoe livery. All those things go on down there. It would be a very nice thing to go as a gateway into the valley. This dispensary is also close to 2 apartment complexes that have 400 students that go to Woodridge school districts. My wife works at Children's Hospital. She said that there's been an increased amount of children being admitted for ingesting gummies that they got from their parents. Not a good thing. I'm under the impression that gummies will be sold at this dispensary. I had the conversation with you this morning. And that was one of your things that they said that they do sell gummies. There's going to be 3 other facilities in there. You had mentioned coffee shop, food, something like that. You can look within 500 feet and see all those. Having those type of establishments with that facility has taken away business from the current businesses. I don't know if you want to run other businesses out of there that have been there for a long time. So I read the other day online that the city of Akron received $830,000 from the excise taxes from the dispensaries in Ohio. I hope this isn't all about money, but it seems to me that's what's happening here. I just really hope you reconsider other options for that building. It's too important, not only to us, all the people that live behind it, the kids that go to Woodridge schools that live right up the street, 1,000 feet. They have a nice highway right now with that new sidewalk that was put in that goes right down there. I appreciate you guys having this meeting as a additional meeting because weather was terrible. Thanks for your conversation this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify?
I want to thank council for an opportunity to speak here. I did submit in written form through your electronic email apparatus, which Mr. Bolden shared with me as an opportunity to share. And I'm also a former city councilman from Cuyahoga Falls of 12 years. And believe it or not, it was in these chambers that introduced me to getting involved in civic affairs. The result of which was I ended up on city council in Cuyahoga Falls for 12 years. I also was the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for most of those years. So I'm familiar pretty much with what the procedures are. The one thing that I do question with this extension of what I'm interpreting to be just a continuation of what was supposed to happen on Monday night, which we all know was disengaged because of the weather. I'm just curious as to, from my experience, why this couldn't been just put on hold for the normal committee meetings on your normal schedule, which would have gone into next month. I don't think there's a real rush on getting this thing approved without allowing more people to participate. I noticed that there are council people that couldn't make this meeting. I know of a lot of people in the businesses and other jobs that could not make this meeting today because it was only a 2-day notice by telephone, which Mr. Dave here that just spoke, he stayed in touch with, thankfully, your clerk of council was the only way that some of us found out that this was an extension of what I'm hearing of last Monday's meeting. I think it's out of order that this should have been extended with somebody on council should have suggested last Monday night that this could have been put on hold until your next committee meetings to where there would have been sufficient time for the newspapers and all the others to communicate to the public of an extension of people being able to participate. The things that I brought to order, somewhat followed up what Dave just mentioned, mostly has to do with the health of our youth. I submitted an article that was in the, I never remember the name of that PR article, whatever. Anyway, newspaper back in 2025 that revealed there were studies done by universities in our country that focused in on the increase in the results of cannabis being legalized throughout our country. And the article focused in on the emergency rooms in hospitals. Their increase has multiplied with the results of young people being taking in what I interpret to be an introductory drug, first level, that introduces to people. I have a personal relationship with a family whose son in the high school ages started using these type of drugs and that for recreation. The end result is it introduced him to getting into more heavier things. And I'm sorry to say, this was a kid that was possibly going to be getting involved in professional athletics when he got older because he was really good. The result was because of getting involved in the drug environment, he ended up committing murder, and now he's being sentenced to a lifetime with no parole in the prison here in Ohio. That's one example of a result that young people, and according to that article, there was even a medical organization that input into that same article, that as young people that their brains are not totally developed at the point yet, and they get a lot of negative impacts from being exposed for this kind of stuff. I've been experiencing a lot of medical surgeries in the past 2 years due to Agent Orange from Vietnam, and the result of that was a drug that was introduced by our government to take care of foliage and so on. Anyway, the only reason I bring that up, because I've been in the past 2 years in and out of hospitals for added surgeries, and every time I go in there, and it's even during shift changes with nurses and so on, the first questions they ask me, do I drink alcohol? The next thing was, do I participate in recreational drugs? And I asked a few of them, and this is just recent in the past week, why do you keep asking that question about alcohol, and I forget what the other substance was, but you always ask about being involved in recreational drugs. And I've been told by multiple people that work in the medical profession, we ask that question because we're trying to develop statistics of the illnesses that people come in here with, and we have noticed a huge increase ever since marijuana was legally passed. I understand that the folks that want to bring this into our community are adhering to the state laws that have approved this. I'm sorry that the voters of our wonderful state that we live in decided to vote for the legalization of marijuana. I think it's been in the early stages of since it's been legalized that there still is not enough numbers that have surfaced at this point, other than ones that I'm sharing with you now, that have indicated that this has been a mistake. And I'm afraid that our youth is being negatively impacted to the point where it's going to improved to the point in being a disaster to the youth of our community to get involved in drugs to speak of. We know in our country right now, we've got thousands and millions of young people that are dying from other drugs that come into our country. And we also see that our country's in chaos, what's going on in our big cities. A lot of these things are all the result of people getting involved in the drug culture. And I would appreciate the fact that I know that it's legal to do, that it allows this to come into our community. I just think this particular location is the worst place that is being considered because of the residential people around it, and as also was indicated, not to be over repetitious, of that we got the Woodridge School District that have, as was stated, over 400 children in that right next door to where this will be. And we also heard that some kids have been exposed to these gummies from families that don't pay attention to what's going on, just like those in the gun environment don't take care of making sure things are secure with the things that have happened in our country through that environment. Anyway, I do thank you for this time. I really think you should really consider about taking another look at entertaining the idea of allowing multitudes of more people to still want to participate in this avenue by delaying this thing, putting it on hold, which you have the opportunity to do as the body of council, to extend it to the next committee meeting hearing night. So other people that couldn't make it here, as I noticed you've got council people that couldn't make it here for the same reason. So I appreciate your consideration on doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sir, could you please give us your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Terry Mader, 1946 Tice Road, Akron 44313.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Lorraine McHugh. I live at 598 Delaware Avenue. It's like 1.5 miles up the road from this property, the CVS property. This might be a little disjointed. I only found out about this yesterday. And I found out about it because I often go to Towpath to play tennis. And for a while there, I was going down the street and I kept thinking, why do I smell marijuana? What is this stench that I'm passing every day? That must be some strong skunk. It's been here 2 weeks. Well, little did I know, we have a marijuana plant spewing its filth into the air, which apparently is okay, but when the city had the pollution plant and that was going on 35, 40 years ago, they had to put scrubbers on their plant to keep that air pollution from affecting all the way up toward the high school, Firestone, up the street where I live, which is off of between Merriman and Portage Path. Apparently that is Cuyahoga Falls property. Who knew that was going in? And it's an interesting dynamic because you've got Akron Peninsula Road and you've got this Cuyahoga Falls property. 3 or 4 properties down is Akron. Kind of screwy. But I digress. And some of what I'm saying is going to be a little repetitive. I appreciate everything you said about children, because that's something I want to touch upon. I quickly looked up articles, how do dispensaries affect and destroy communities? Increased crime rates. I don't care what that real estate agent was pushing. I'm sorry, increased crime rates. Property crime, burglary, auto theft, auto break-ins. It's a cash-based business, which makes the dispensary itself a target. And it also is associated with black market activities. So as I go down on my little sketchy notes, it also creates a great demand on social services, ER visits, poison control. It strains local resources. Often these dispensaries are, well, I won't get into that because I don't think it pertains to this particular location. Then there was an article in the National Library of Medicine, Impact of Major Dispensary Density and Neighborhood Ecology on Marijuana Abuse and Dependence. That was in 2012. Some of the highlights talked about the density of marijuana dispensaries. Again, I repeat myself, hospitalizations. It affects the neighborhood ecology. Indicators of concentration disadvantage, which would make sense. You can't focus, and yet we drive while smoking. I cannot tell you how many times, every day, multiple times a day, I'm in my car, and the fumes from the marijuana are sucked into my car, and I choke. It's just the way I'm affected by it. It chokes me. I'm not asthmatic, but it chokes me every single day. If I'm walking from my house to Highland Square, marijuana, marijuana, marijuana. We're going to be another New York City. People that go to New York, to enjoy New York, to visit New York, what do they all come back saying? They can't stand walking in the city anymore, filled with marijuana smoke. In Colorado, talked about the increase in marijuana deaths from traffic. There was a 92%, an increase of 92% between 2010 2014, while all other traffic deaths increased only 8%. Colorado is sort of like the canary in the mine. They're really having problems. Apparently, you cannot test like you can the sobriety like you can for alcohol, for marijuana. And so if you have somebody driving erratically in front of you, as was told to me by a friend whose son is a police officer, there was a gentleman who was on the police force following somebody in Colorado. He was intoxicated, and he told his dad, I can't pull him over because I have no test. So that's another thing to consider. These are my own anecdotal remarks about children. Children, preschool children, kindergarten children, and upper grade children as well, get out of the cars of their parents, reeking of marijuana. They're in an enclosed vehicle. You're not telling me that these children aren't sucking in this stuff into their lungs, being exposed? And like you said, what does this predispose them to? What's next in their lives? Excuse me while I just take a quick look. Oh, one of the things, and this doesn't pertain to the dispensary, but it pertains to the product that is in the dispensary, okay, the marijuana itself. It takes as much power to run a plant as it does to run 35,000 households. That's how much power it takes to run a plant. It takes 900 gallons of water for one plant of marijuana. What kind of an effect is this on our environment? And then we have the runoff and the pollution and in the waterways. So, I mean, it's just something to consider. I think the cat's been let out of the bag. I just think there's a devolution, devolving of our society to the lowest common denominator. And I implore you, I beseech you to think about this thing. It's not about the money. I know you're making money on this stuff. We can make money other ways. We don't have to put it on the backs of our children or our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, and just a reminder again, the only thing we consider is the zoning, so not whether, marijuana is good, bad, or all those types of things. So just focusing on the zoning. That's all we're voting on today, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Katrina Dunn, and I live at 1090 North Portage Path, right up the hill from Merriman Valley again, and I just wanted to say I'm an Akron Public Schools teacher here on a snow day. Wouldn't have made it otherwise, and I'm also a mother. I have a 1-year-old son. 2 years ago, we were looking to move, and we looked outside of Akron, we looked inside of Akron, we looked in different neighborhoods, and we ultimately decided Akron was the place we wanted to be, not without some reservations. There's a lot of people who choose to commute into Akron due to schools, due to neighborhoods, due to all sorts of things, but I felt strongly I wanted to be in the city I'm teaching in and invest in the kids in the community I work within. And so we are in Akron, and we're right up the hill from Merriman Valley, and I'm excited to be there. I love the parks, I love the coffee shops down the hill, I love the walkability for the most part, and I'm glad to be here, but I challenge you to invest in the people you want to be here in the future for Akron. My 1-year-old son, I am excited for him to be in the neighborhood he's in. I envision a future in which he can go out on his own in some of the parks in the area, that he can walk down the hill and go to an art class at the little art studio down in Merriman Valley, that you could maybe walk to take music lessons at some of the music lesson places, that he could maybe get his first job before, he has his license and go be a dishwasher in one of the restaurants. That's an exciting thought to me. But I am concerned about the fact that Merriman Valley is allowing a lot of businesses in that aren't so safe for Robin to be walking within on his own. And I am a young mother, and I will tell you that there are kids surrounding my backyard. There are other babies, other young children, and I would wish the same for them. I want Robin to be able to go out and play with those kids and feel very, very safe. And so, as you're deciding upon this, I just want to present to you the fact that I chose to be in Akron. I am not maybe as lucrative as a resident as a marijuana dispensary is, but I am the type of resident I think you want here investing in your community, and I do pay taxes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Quentin Takis. I own the Radar Complete Car Care right next door to where you guys want to put the dispensary in. I am an anchor store in the valley. I have a ton of bars in the valley. I have the liquor store in the valley. I give loaner vehicles out to my customers. Some of you guys are my customers and drove those. What do I do if somebody eats an edible, hops in a car, gets in an accident, and I'm sued? How do I answer that? What do you do for that? What kind of position are you putting me in because I have to distinguish who's high and who's not, who's drunk and who's not? You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying pro or against. I'm saying I don't want that as an anchor store to be next to me at all. Please don't do that. Please. And to Terry Nader, he said that this was a last-minute thing. I found out just before Christmas about this going in. Come on, guys, just before Christmas. And I own the property, not own, I run the property, own the business right next door. When my landlord retires, I get to buy that property. What does that do to my property value? What does that do to the development behind me? All that stuff you guys can't answer. But yet you guys can think everything through like everybody's saying it. So again, I ask everybody on city council, whoever approves, disapproves, or however you vote this in, just like he said, there's so many other businesses we can bring down into the valley and encourage and give tax rebates to have them come down. Why do that? We already have enough issues in our world with alcohol. We already have enough issues with drugs. I mean, look at our fucking world. We're blowing up boats and everything because of it. And we want to put that next door and encourage our youth. Come on, guys, I'm 52. I got kids, 3 daughters. I'm sure many of you guys have. And you want to raise your boys right? But hey, you know what? Have this beer. It's not going to affect your life. Smoke this joint. It's not going to affect your life. We all know that's a bullshit statement. Excuse my language. We've all been there. We all know how it affects us. We all know to the court what God wants us to do. So please, vote against it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify?
I've already spoken. Am I allowed to say
Yes, it's okay. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone again, this time in person. I'm Jesse Gannon. I'm the general counsel for the Landing Dispensary. We're the applicant in this. And I'm not going to reiterate, our position. You all have heard it. You heard it ad nauseum on Monday. We spoke about it on Monday afternoon, spoke about it Monday evening. I do, however, want to point out a few things that were mentioned, particularly in the Monday evening session, and correct the record here. During the discussion on Monday after we spoke, the opposition to our initiative referenced a National Association of Realtors report. I have an excerpt of the report right here, and we printed out copies. We can hand it out afterwards. When they referenced this report, it was all along the lines, or it was to further the notion that having a dispensary in the neighborhood would decrease property values, and having a dispensary in the neighborhood would result in an increase in either the perception of crime or actual crime. And while we didn't have a copy of this report provided to us at the time on Monday, afterwards we pulled up the copy of the report to really just take a look at it and see what it examined. And the short answer, the short kind of conclusion to this report was not really what it was used for, what it was, what the opponents were using it to suggest. First, the report found that the respondents primarily report no noticeable change in residential property values near dispensaries, okay? Our opposition said that I think they used the stat that 15% of respondents saw a decrease in property value. Well, when you look at the actual data in this report, 7% said the opposite, that they actually saw an increase in property value near a dispensary, and nearly 80% of the respondents reported either no change or were indifferent to the question, which I think if somebody saw a decrease to property value, they wouldn't be indifferent. With regards to, there were similar findings in the commercial context, with nearly half of those polled saying that they saw no change in property values near a dispensary. With regard to the perception of crime, I think the stat was mentioned on Monday that this report found that 21 to 28% of respondents saw an increase in the perception of crime. However, this very same report found that 39 to 46% saw no change in the perception of crime, and that 24 to 31% didn't know. So in other words here, 63 to 77% with regards to the perception of crime did not see a change or were indifferent on the matter. Interestingly also, this report also polled the actual crime. So when you put the perception of crime topic aside and examine the actual change in crime near dispensaries, it found that nearly half of the respondents saw no change in actual crime, and 37% were indifferent. So in other words, more than 80% of the respondents in this report saw no change in actual crime or were indifferent on the matter. So for these reasons, I just wanted to come up here and say a few words, because I know this report was used in a manner on Monday that isn't how we interpret it when we actually reviewed it. I understand, we respect the differing opinions around legalized cannabis, and frankly, we're not expecting to change people's minds here today. But what we are asking is for you to give us the opportunity. Let us invest in the neighborhood. Let us repurpose a building that's currently sitting vacant right now. Let us get involved in the community. We do that in every other community that we've been in. So, and for those reasons, we respectfully request that you vote yes on our application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay.
My name is Nicole Lee. My address is 1562 Akron Peninsula Road. Our family owns the plaza across the street from the CVS, and we own several small businesses in the area, and you have heard my previous testimony about how passionate I am about the Valley, but I just wanted to give one last plea with just a little bit of a different approach. You know, we're at a crossroads, we're at a fork in the road, and this decision will affect the future and the well-being of Merriman Valley for decades. The future value of our properties, commercial and residential, the future of our families, and the safety of our children are all at stake. So I ask you, does this council really want to do harm to its neighbors? Because putting this next to their home will do them harm. And do you want to potentially harm children? Of course you don't. But we know there's 400 children right next door every day that are going to walk right down the hill, right past that facility, get on the school bus, play in the backyard with their friends. They're going to see it every single day. And so, you know, right now the Valley is good, but it could be much, much better. We are asking you to help us achieve the goals of the Valley Master Plan by doing something with this building that promotes family, health, and community instead of what's suggested. The city could purchase this building and create something, and I know we all talk about money, but you can raise money for things like this, but something that becomes a true community anchor. For an example, a cultural center like what was built in Cuyahoga Falls. That kind of investment can create a ripple effect. It encourages further investment, strengthens your district, and becomes something the community is proud of. Merriman Valley is special. Our backyard is Ohio's only national park that attracts thousands of visitors each year and makes this area so unique. This location could become a public library with emphasis on the history of the Cuyahoga Valley, the national park, and the Cyberling family. And kids and families from up the hill could come down, read with their children. They could, you know, have a safe place where they can get online and do some schoolwork. And a better alternative. My son-in-law is absolutely the most wonderful person ever, and he was raised in a very challenging neighborhood. But every day, he was supposed to go to school, after school, was not allowed to go home, but he had to go to the library every day. This is the smartest man I've ever met. He's read thousands and thousands and thousands of books because after school, he went to the library to read. And that's how he did his time until his dad got home from work. But something like that is and does align with the Valley Master Plan, and it lifts up the community. But what if we make a mistake on this one thing right now? If we make a mistake and put in this dispensary, it will affect the families, the future investors, existing businesses, and the children for decades. This building is highly visible. It's the most prominent property when you go up Portage Trail and down. It's very obvious that it deserves something significant. It's the ideal place for the city to make a statement that Akron is serious about caring for its people and building a thriving valley. So I'm asking you tonight to pause, take time to process other positive alternatives that truly serve the future good of the valley and the people. Please don't treat this dispensary like a normal retail business, because it is not. It's not a craft store, it's not a grocery store, it's not a restaurant. It sells products that impairs judgment. It does not promote health. It contributes to addiction, unhealthy choices, and impaired decision-making. And I know that you all got my letter about my personal testimony about impaired decision. I'm dealing with this the rest of my life, and my son is too. But one bad choice with marijuana will change your life for good, and not just your life, your friends and your family's lives. The dispensary goes against the Valley's master plan, and planting bushes, trees, shrubs, adding a bike rack to this facility does not change what is being sold inside those walls. As my dad would always say, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's basically what it is. So council, I want you to ask yourselves, Would I want this near my home, near my children, near my grandchildren? Would I appreciate seeing the value of my property, my largest financial investment, decrease? Would I want my assets to depreciate because of a decision that could have been completely avoided with a little more effort? If you wouldn't want those things for yourself, then you must not choose them for the people that you represent. You have the ability to leave a legacy for Akron. You stepped into these positions to help people. And I know that 20 years from now, you can look back and say, I mean, I'm sure you want this. You want to say, we did our job well. We served our people well. We built something lasting that future generations can enjoy. You know, I told you before, my testimony was that my dad was a developer. He took raw land and he made it something. He put places on the map that you all would know, and he made everything beautiful. He put extra upon extra, and he didn't care how hard he had to work to make it beautiful. And I love the Valley. I love the people. I love my businesses. It's a great place, and I really want you to respect it and honor the people here in this room by doing the right thing. So I urge you, please consider all that's in stake and make the very best decision for the people of Merriman Valley, the local small businesses, and the surrounding areas. Thank you for hearing my plea.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Kuczkowski. First off, I'd like to thank you all for calling this special meeting for us to be able to speak on our behalf. I'm not only a resident of Water's Edge at 1510 Water's Edge Drive, where my wife Janet and I live, but I am also the homeowner president of the HOA for Water's Edge. I've spoken twice before, but this morning I wasn't going to speak initially, but then I started thinking about a few things. One, I'm a retired project manager, but right now I drive for a local car dealership, a very large car dealership in the Akron area. And I drive all over Akron and the areas around Akron. And this morning I started thinking about that as I was coming into work. And I was looking at and thinking about, okay, we have a closed CVS pharmacy at the bottom of Portage Trail. But then I started to jot down some notes about all the other ones that are abandoned and closed and not existing in Akron. And because I'm all over the city, I see them every day. Few examples. There's the Walgreens at Copley and Hawkins. There's the Ritzman Pharmacy directly across the street at Copley and Hawkins. There's the Dollar Store on Vernon Odom Boulevard. Then go up to Roman Road. There's a closed Denny's. There's a car repair next door to it. There's a Wendy's next to the cemetery. There's a retail location next to that. There's a retail location across from Miller's on Wadsworth Road and Roman Road. There's a building on Roman Road that was recently sold at auction. They are looking for tenants. They have a large sign to say so. There's a Dollar Tree that's closed on East, South Street, and Grant Street. There's a McDonald's at East, South, and Wolf Ledges that has been closed for, 10 years? There's also a closed pharmacy at Britton Road and Eastwood. There's also a Rite Aid on Waterloo across from the Marks. There's also a Walgreens at South Arlington near Archwood. There's also a closed parts store on Vernon Odom at South Hawkins. These were just off the top of my head. How many closed locations there are in Akron. The real estate agent said something to that effect earlier, but what are the chances of making a change for the decision being made today? My point is this: you are Akron City Council. You have a tremendous amount of influence and power in the development of the future of Akron. I would think that with the help of others in this city's planning office, you could work with the developer and any of those property owners to come up with a more viable solution than using the building 97 feet from our condos and 200 feet from my front door. Thank you.
Thank you.
live in the condominiums in the private area there. My condominium is on the corner, and so I have lots of windows that face the street, and I see people go by, and I see what goes on out there. And I just want to point out that in our condominium group there, the mailboxes are all centralized in one place, which is just at that angle from where I live, right out there, so I can see people go by. And I want you to know that everybody there has to pick their mail up at that one location. They can't just go out and open their door and get their mail. So that's one way where I see people walking. Another way is we have a lot of dog owners, and there's a lot of people walking dogs every day, twice a day or more, you know. And so I'm concerned about their safety. I'm concerned about my safety. I'm older than I look. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I remember my great-grandmother being near my age. And so I live there by myself, and we have lots of women who live in their condos by themselves. And they have to walk to their mailboxes. They have to, you know, be out there on their own. Behind us is the river, so there's no place to run that way. And so I'm scared of having people around who could be walking in our condominium area and looking in my windows. And I'm concerned for the people who walk there to their mailboxes or walk their dogs. And I want to keep it safe. I want to be able to ride my bicycle. As old as I am, I want to be able to ride my bicycle without worrying about whether I'm safe or not. And there's other people who ride their bicycles there too. So I'm just asking you not to put a place of business near our community. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And ma'am, could you please give us your name for the record? Your name, thank you.
Linda? You need the last name?
Does that work?
1154 Wild Brook Drive is my address.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify?
Thank you, members of council. I believe everyone's had an opportunity to speak that wanted to speak. Would you like to speak? Okay. I'll keep it short for you. Your voice means as much, if not more, than mine does. I am an Akron resident. I went to law school here. I've been here ever since. I'm a lawyer with Buckingham, Doolittle, and Burroughs, the law firm that's moving back downtown. I'm very happy to be a part of that move back downtown. Make no mistake, I'm an attorney here representing people in this audience as a part of my job to help convey in terms they may not be able to, the reasons why this location just does not make sense. We've heard a lot of different testimony for a lot of various issues about why this location's not appropriate. And I think that it's because if you look at the other 8, now 9 dispensaries that are operating in our city, none of them are located directly adjacent to such dense residential housing. Now, why is that? Okay, other applicants who have in my understanding, have received much stronger blessing from Planning Commission and much stronger support from residents and council members to put locations in certain areas is because they are far removed from schools, parks, residential neighborhoods. Me personally, I don't disagree with the nature of the business. Cannabis for recreational and medical use is legal, but we have to recognize that the state, by design, has set forth certain restrictions. And Akron's code, by design, has adopted certain restrictions, requiring a conditional use permit for any dispensary regardless of where it's being placed. And that gives council the ultimate ability to help control and regulate and put thoughtful consideration into the appropriate places that these dispensaries should go. I believe in my letter I stated that within an 8-mile radius there are 8 other dispensaries by the CVS location, the closest of which is only 2.5 miles away. With this cornerstone location in the valley that means so much, as you can hear, to these residents, and ought to mean so much to the city and our community, why is this the location that's been chosen?
Yep.
I beg to ask a few key questions as I slept on this last night. One, what amount of consideration has our development committee and our planning committee in the city, or our council members, or a ward member done in terms of looking for and attracting a potential tenant or a potential buyer for that location prior to the last month? I know it's a problem, okay? Nobody wants a vacant building. These people can speak to that. Nobody wants a vacant building right next to where they live, but they certainly don't want a dispensary next to where they live. What amount of work has gone into trying to attract a retail establishment that comports with our city's Merriman Valley Master Plan, envisioning and listing by 30 items priority retail of varying types that would be well suited for a neighborhood? How much work has gone into that? How much work has gone into you as council members or you as planning department working with what I believe to be a very reputable company, Fireland Scientific, to help them locate other suitable locations we have within our city that are further away from a neighborhood where you have 400 children getting on a bus every day, where you have so many senior citizens who live within 100 feet from this building? How much work has gone into that? Did you just sit idly and say, oh, there's a proposal here, let's shove it down Merriman Valley's throats because it's been sitting for 2 years? Well, what work have you done? I would implore you that if you were to vote no to this proposed location, I am sure Fireland Scientific can find another very good spot in the city of Akron, and they will contribute very well, that won't be so close to residential housing, that won't be so close to cities, that won't be right in the middle of the gateway to our national park. And you will get that tax revenue once they do. And I'm willing to bet if all of you work with them together, you won't see this level of opposition for another location. Did you see this level of opposition when Clutch Cannabis applied for the West Market Street location? I'm guessing not. What's the difference? My client and I are not against retail cannabis use. It's great. It's here to stay. There are studies everywhere. It's no different than having alcohol, right? I mean, if used responsibly, great. Is it important? Could it be important for our tax base and finding retail location? Yeah, it can be. It's great. But how many people are residents of Akron in this room? Do you want this? Do you want this in Merriman Valley? No. Who here that's a resident of Akron in Ward 1 wants this here? You were elected to make these important decisions. I implore and encourage you to listen to the residents, and not just the ones here that brave the wintry conditions today, but those that have written letters, those that have signed petitions, and those that were at the prior meetings, at the Planning Commission meetings, those in Highland Square that had the same problem on the basis that it's in a neighborhood, if they chose a place that was in an appropriate place, set back from these schools, the neighborhood, parks, there would be no problem. And I hope they do so. I hope they can find the right place, because I would welcome them in our greater community if the right place was found. Another question I ask is, there have been no answers as to what these other retail spaces would be used for in that building. We don't have an answer. Have you asked, as council members, have you inquired about what those businesses might be? We've got a clear traffic problem that our planning department has recognized in that intersection. Highly trafficked, high accident statistics. I know that because if you look at your website and through the Planning Commission, it has your 2000 to 2003 study, and it identifies these intersections as bad intersections that need help, okay? I understand the argument that you put any retail space in there, some amount of traffic is going to be increased, okay? But why is it that I'm hearing for the first time possible ideas about how we can mitigate that and rework those intersections only when this dispensary decides they want to go into it? Those things ought to have taken place years ago or should be worked on now, so in the future, it is an attractive and suitable location for a retail business. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think we might have someone online, so we'll take a pause. Is there someone online who would like to testify?
Yes, my name is Michelle Cray. I live on Water's Edge. I'm a neighbor of Paul's, by the way. I have something that I would like somebody to explain to me. Why, all of a sudden, is this being pushed through? First, you had it scheduled for Monday for the meeting. Everybody was snowed in, but you continued with the meeting, right? And then it's all of a sudden rescheduled 2 days later. I'm with the gentleman that spoke earlier about why couldn't this be done during one of your regular meetings where people that were 9 to 5 would be able to participate in case they wanted to do that. I'm a little confused as to why everything is so important since that building's been sitting there for as long as it is. Can somebody explain that to me? I've lived here for over 20 years. I've never had a problem with anything. And now we're going to have strangers walking through our neighborhood. So the people that have children and the children that like to ride their bikes around and feel safe, now what are they going to do? Because nobody that lives in our neighborhood is going to feel safe having a dispensary sit there. It isn't fair to us. It isn't fair, that our property values are going to drop. I understand what the real estate agent said, but you can make those numbers look any way you want to. If you want them to be pro dispensary, hey, I'll show you the numbers that do that. If you want to be negative dispensary, hey, I can make these numbers look like that. So as I appreciate the statistics that he did provide, I do question them. And with us that live so close, would any of you like to have a dispensary next door? Not just on the same street, but next door to your home. How do you think that would make you feel? Can you tell me that you'd be, fine, I'm good with that? Or would you take a step back and think, I got kids. They like to play outside. I guess I don't have anything else I'd like to add, but I implore you to reconsider putting that in our neighborhood. We're working so hard to build up the valley, and this is not the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else here in chambers? Okay.
My name is Lisa Russell, and I live at 1640B Akron Peninsula Road. And I did speak Monday night, but I did have a few things that I would like to respond to. On Monday night, one of the council members stated that we should not treat this business differently because of what they sell. It's a business, and all businesses should be treated the same. If that's the case, then why do we need ordinances and zoning, and we have any type of rules if any business can go in anywhere? We have to ask ourselves that. Not all businesses are suited for everywhere. And in this case, the dispensary, would you put it at Lock 3 next to your park? You have to really take a look and see when you're asking that. And the question has been offered many times. Would you want a dispensary in your neighborhood? Would you want to live close to one? You have no idea, if you don't live on Akron Peninsula Road, how many people walk, bike, and run on Akron Peninsula Road alone. Most mornings, at least, I either have to watch turning right or left coming out of the complex for either somebody walking, carrying bags, somebody walking, somebody biking, somebody running, and this is like at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Most people aren't out at Akron Peninsula Road that time and seeing what is going on. You have no idea what happens in our area because you don't live there. While the CVS building is vacant, maybe you should consider, we don't mind it being vacant. We don't have the traffic issues that we would have to deal with if it was occupied. You know, OPC has said that they are going to sublease some of that. My question would be, have they subleased any other properties that they have occupied, and what type of tenants did they lease to? Because you also have to ask yourself as a business owner, I've owned my business for 27 years, and I would ask anybody, would you want to lease next to a dispensary for your business? If or unless your business was related to their business. So you have to ask yourself that, because as a business owner, I wouldn't want to be next to them. I wouldn't want my customers competing with the customers that are going in their doors. I don't care how safe their security is going to be. You have to legally and you have to logistically ask yourself. We all know in this room there's a traffic issue in Merriman Valley. My dad would say, when he was alive, we often put the cart before the horse, okay? So the question I would pose is, what are you going to do about that traffic? You're going to put them in their location. Maybe if we are lucky, 3 or 5 years down the road, we might see something with that traffic done. Now, wouldn't it behoove you to do a better traffic study and to, like somebody suggested, to do that ahead of time? We have enough traffic where it is, and it's only going to do nothing but increase, no matter who occupies that CVS building. But whoever occupies that CVS building, we are going to have some of the same issues where traffic is concerned, and you really need to look at that. And why do you think CVS is not still there? I know a lot of people that shopped at CVS that complained about getting in and out of their driveway. I was one of them. And I don't live that far away from them. But every time I went to CVS, I had trouble getting out because I didn't need to go right up the hill. I needed to go left down the hill. Now, why is it, as human beings or council members or family members, that we think that we have to be reactive instead of proactive? I think it goes back to the fact that why didn't you find a tenant for CVS before now? Because somebody didn't put a proposal on your table or wanted to occupy that building before now. If somebody else had wanted to occupy that building before now, you probably would have answers to some of our questions. Because it's like anything else. Until it's across our desk, we don't think about it. It's not on our radar. It was stated in Monday night's meeting that there is no loitering on that site. You know, we all know it's going to have a fence up. We all know it's going to have landscaping. But you have to understand that kids today are far more exposed to things than we ever were. Due to the internet, due to the cell phones, due to everything. And I'm going to sit here and tell you, or stand here right here and tell you right now, there's kids in that neighborhood that have already searched dispensaries to see what they sell, to see what the benefits are. I have an 11-year-old grandson that was on the internet at school, at a Chromebook provided by Akron Public Schools, on a site where he didn't belong. We, as adults, make decisions for our kids that think it's in their best interest. When we give them the tools and we recommend and require them to be online, but yet we want to punish them for being online where they're not supposed to be. What do you think is going to be the same thing for our kids? Now, I'll tell you, my grandson sent a not-so-nice email to that teacher because he got caught. But that's an after-the-fact thing. You know, the question would be, on all the studies, on whether this is more crimes, more, you know, people don't mind living next to dispensaries. The question would be, you should ask, is would they buy a property there again? Would they move back into that area again? It's not whether they've seen anything, it's what they would personally do. And I agree that there should be more time to pause this decision, to really look at it, because when you make that decision, we are going to be the ones that are going to have the repercussions from what happens. And, you know, we can suppose all we want on what their tenants are going to be. But you need to look at past history and see who their tenants have been. And I do thank you for the time and the consideration. I've been in the Valley for 15 and a half years, and I'll be the first to tell you, I won't stay. Plain and simple. Where I live, what my grandkids are exposed to. I used to ride my bike with my grandson all the way down Akron Peninsula Road and pick up the towpath. You know, we are totally against the grain of what the Merriman Valley Schumacher project is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify?
My name is Jennifer Constand. I live at 1425 Waters Edge Drive. I've already spoken in front of you 3 times, so I just want to rebut something that the attorney for Fireland said. A study by insed.edu found that the prices of homes within 0.36 miles of a marijuana dispensary fall by 3 to 4%. Our condominium development is less than 100 feet away. A study from the Georgia State University published in the Journal of Real Estate Research found that retail rents for businesses in close proximity to new recreational marijuana dispensaries dropped by as much as 29% once the dispensary opens. Akron City Code Section 153474 states, City Council should focus on the following criteria. A, the impact of the proposed use on public safety in the surrounding community. We've all talked about the traffic. It's so dangerous. And B, the impact of the proposed use on the economic welfare of the surrounding community. So please take that into consideration when deciding this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Has everyone had an opportunity? Seeing and hearing that we don't have anyone else wishing to speak, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report. Kamer? Connor?
Aye.
Boys?
Aye.
Hannah?
Nay.
Report of the committee is favorable. A couple observations. One, in that I do know that Fran Wilson has spent countless hours in terms of site visits, in terms of having meetings with neighbors, discussions over the phone. Only Fran can tell you what that looks like exactly. A couple things we'd like to clear up, I think, might be helpful for us in terms of this decision. In terms of the valley, which is, that study is very valuable. Obviously, countless hours, quite a bit of funds were spent on that. And, you know, our planning director, Kyle Julian, looked at this particular use in reference to the plan that was developed. And he says that it's consistent with the form-based code, specifically section 1.14, reuse of an existing building helps to contain sprawl and conserve land and natural resources, and helps preserve the natural assets. I think that's important to keep in mind as well, moving forward. Also curious about, you know, like the timing of everything in that development, because as we're aware, it's a bit different in terms of, if you've been there before, I visited many times, especially since this has come to our attention. The driving is, you really got to pay attention to where you're at in terms of the development, the Water's Edge development, the CVS, the businesses that are also right off of Akron Peninsula Road. And just, it was interesting to me to find out that in 1997, CVS is whenever I believe that was developed, and in 2000 was the Water's Edge. You know, and that's CVS, obviously a drugstore, was there many, many years. And I also want to clear up too that whenever we had the roll call initially, we had 13 members out of 13 members here and present, quite a few on Zoom. Unfortunately, I know a number of members had previous commitments, but I appreciate the fact that we now have 12 here. And I know they have commitments and they have to move on, so I'll try to wrap this up extremely quickly here. We've had an unprecedented amount of public hearings on this, you know, trying to work with the weather the best we can. I know the public hearing with the Planning Commission, there was quite a few folks who testified. We appreciate, we want that testimony. We want to hear from folks. I know adjustments have been made as a result of the discussions by the wishes of the ward person. At 1 o'clock on Monday, we had 15 people. 5 o'clock, we had 10, and today we had 16, 17. Don't hold me to those numbers, but this is, it's rare for us to have 4 public hearings. As a matter of fact, in terms of our charter, we, City Council, only need to have 1. But we, as a practice, we have 2. And that's just the way we operate, because we want to hear from the community. That's just the way we operate. And I think there's still a stigma, and it's something we need to work on in terms of the vape shops versus the marijuana dispensaries. There's a big difference between the two, a huge difference. And so, and if you look at the crime stats, of the amount of calls for service between, you know, the dispensaries versus the vape shops, there's a significant difference. Significant difference. So the vape shops is something that is a problem, and thankfully the planning department brought forward regulation on that. You want to say the state of Ohio got it right. We were very cautious the way the state went about regulating these things, and that's why it's often said that they're safer. But the vape shops was not. And so we're catching up with that, I do believe, in terms of the state, as well as our ordinance that we had passed a few weeks ago. And I believe that's the end of my statements, but the wishes of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for passage this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilperson Wilson?
May I ask a couple questions, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Awesome. I know our planning folks are here. I just wanted to ask a couple, if I may. We've heard a lot about the master plan related overlaps, and I know you touched a little bit more. I don't know if you could, if our planning staff could elaborate a little bit more on master plan related items. And then I know, my particular focus is Ward 1 and the roads in Ward 1. I know there's money that's coming up for a study to study Portage Trail and some of the intersections in the roads down in the valley. Obviously, there's some obvious overlap because this is a business right off one of those roads. I have a lot of personal concerns there, also growing up a lot of years in the valley. I just want to make sure that that road and that intersection, regardless of whatever happens with this vote, will be a part of that. If you could also speak to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, President Somerville, members of council, our residents, of course. Traffic study. For the past 3 years, since the Valley Master Plan was completed, we have tried to secure funding for the additional traffic safety studies that we need in order to make the changes to those two key intersections. About mid-December, I think it was, we were looking at our application for 2026, and that is part of the 2026 application as well. So we are continuing to figure out how to invest in the safer streets in the valley. The Valley Master Plan recognizes that the street network is overbuilt, that it disadvantages people who aren't in cars, and that is at odds with the goal of building a walkable, bikeable neighborhood. And transforming that neighborhood down there. So, the plan creates a vision, and it discusses and proposes land use patterns. But then, to translate that into engineering, to re-engineer the road system, right? We have to have more specific engineering traffic studies. That we have to hire consultants for. We don't have the capacity to do all of that work in-house. And so we have to get outside funding for that. And we have tried for 3 years to get that funding. We're hopeful this year that we'll be able to get that. And that application is due, I believe, mid-February. And it includes the valley. So that part is ongoing. And then the project and its consistency. So the plan itself was completed in 2023, and that's before cannabis consumption, was legalized recreationally, right? Adult use marijuana was not contemplated in the plan. So it's really, it didn't take it up. It didn't say no. It didn't say yes. There really wasn't anything for it to consider. In terms of that specific use. But what the plan is very clear about is that there is a need to direct investment into established areas in the valley, to reinvest in the parts of the valley where there is development already, and to sort of bring that into the 21st century in order to prevent continued sprawl. In order to not have more greenfield development, to not chop down more trees for condos and retail, right? That's a very clear goal, right? And that's called out very specifically, and then in the plan itself, right? And then also it's accounted for in the form-based code, which has a specific set of guidelines for major renovation projects of existing buildings. So what we have here is a building that was 1997, right? So it's sort of a car-oriented building. It's not the greatest, as in its current form, for the goals of a pedestrian and bikeable neighborhood, right? But the form-based code recognizes that those buildings, we can't just tear them down and start over, right? And so we have to allow for the possibility of reinvestment in those buildings, but in a way that kind of creates the conditions and requirements, really, to align the building footprint with the goals of the master plan. And this particular proposal does that by significantly increasing the glazing, the windows on the west face of the building, by adding the storefronts, right? And I've got the renderings here if anybody would like to look at that. The landscaping plan is important, the additional sort of a clearly demarcated pedestrian path from the new sidewalk to the front door. And so those particular transformations of the building facade are precisely in line with the form-based code, called out for it, required of the form-based code, and so it meets the code.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your questions?
Those answer my questions, thank you. May I ask one of the petitioners, is that all right?
Ask one of the...
a question of the petitioner?
No, you got to direct all your comments to the chair.
All right,
okay?
I understand. I think, I obviously also have a lot of concerns around the types of businesses that might come into if this goes forward, the three other retail spaces. This is a topic that we've been talking a lot about. In the neighborhood meetings, a lot of people have been calling and texting me. It's why we put a condition into the new piece of legislation that was offered as a substitute on Monday that gives an urge for the petitioner to do so. So I just want to state, I will also be, if this goes forward, I'll also be watching that very closely. But I think my last comment, and I have many, but I think my bigger reflection, there's been a lot of conversation about private road use and private access to what my understanding is HOA-specific property. And I understand we might not be able to put certain restrictions or requirements on how the HOA handles their own road and property, and there is a joint easement with several of the properties around the area. But I just want to state that if this does go forward, I definitely want to see, and it's in the substitute legislation, that my hope is the petitioner will meet with all the property owners and neighbors in the HOA to discuss the easement and whether there should be a gate or a barrier. But my understanding is that is ultimately up to the HOA and the petitioner and the easement. But I appreciate the level of dialogue that we've been able to have. I'm your new council person. I take this very, very seriously. A big reason why I'm in the seat is because I've seen a lot of bad development projects pass through this council. I've been in these chairs before. So I personally have the information that I need to be able to, make my vote or answer any questions on my side. But I appreciate the dialogue and being able to ask some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hanna, then Councilman Bolden.
Thank you, Madam President. If we look around, early on, this gallery was full of residents that are against this proposal. How can we as elected officials not listen and act on the residents' concerns and wishes? I do believe that Akron should have new businesses to operate in the city, but businesses that might harm our residential areas should not be allowed. There are many concerns that residents have spoken about, and I've heard numerous concerns that concern my ward on an issue similar to this. I know that there's a traffic problem in that area. As an ex-bus operator, I used to go pick up passengers and I would drop them off at the top of the hill, and also doing the scat bus. Also, there are many, many children in that area, and those children are my main concern. And it's for the safety of those children. I know they'll be coming down that hill, and those three businesses that's inside that business, we don't have a clue as to what those businesses are going to be like. But I know it's been spelled out a little bit. But during time, those businesses, if they're not making money inside those businesses, they can move out and someone else could go in. And so my concern is the traffic and the children in that neighborhood. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Ward 8 councilman, I cover about 90, I'm going to say 95% of the valley that is Ward 8. The section I don't is that east side between east side of Merriman Road, coming down Merriman, to Akron Peninsula, and up Portage Trail. The rest of it is pretty much me. I know I have a good idea what's going on in the valley. I've been part of was not here when the Merriman Valley Master Plan was, but I was also on the group that was looking at to try to make this a gateway community. I also know that there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of issues that we need to address, as our Planning Director Kyle Julian said. And while we are looking to get more grant money, there's $50,000 for the Merriman Valley Mobility Study that's in the budget right now to look at what we can do to increase safety down there. It's a busy area. There's 30,000 roughly cars going through there every single day. I get it. And I understand also that we have zones in the city where you can put dispensaries. And we carved them, we made them specific where they wouldn't harm this. The problem we have with this city, or the way the city was built, hundreds of years ago, we have retail next to residential. And we can't change that. I understand that, businesses want to go where they think their market is. I understand why they would want to go, they would come in here. But for me, I look at my job, and my job is to represent the people that voted me in. And as it happened with Clutch, which, by the way, there was a lot of opposition on the original Clutch Cannabis back in July. We had over 60 people at my ward meeting that were not too happy about it. And we talked it out. We understand what's going on. Just recently came back up again as they moved a little bit and changed the project. For me, I voted against that because my residents said, we don't want it. The residents I've talked to in Ward 8 are opposed to this. For me, I look at that and said, I have to represent their views. That's what I was elected to do. So I will be voting no on this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mobian, did I see your hand?
Yes, you did, Madam President. I'm running out of juice on my phone. But anyway, I want to make it clear that there was a reason why we decided when we did the medicinal dispensaries, why we did it on the periphery of the city. We asked and we were really clear that we did not want these in residential neighborhoods. And for me, that is the bottom line. They should not be in residential neighborhoods. And I don't care about all the other things that we need to consider. For me, that is primary. The residents have spoken and they are very clear. They moved into these areas because they wanted to be there. They do not want that kind of traffic going around them. And I will be voting against this specifically for that reason. Thank you.
Council members, are there any additional questions or comments? Councilman Fusco? Okay, so the committee's, yes, I think so. No other additional questions or comments. The committee's report is favorable. Thank you. Just going to ask you to maintain order. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll
Nay.
call.
Bolden?
No.
Boyce?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Fusco? Garrett?
Nay.
Hannah?
Nay.
Lombardo?
Nay.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Amobian?
Nay.
Somerville?
Aye.
And Wilson?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 7-5.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, our meeting is adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.